Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing Goblin Vaults from Thunderworks Games. Goblin Vaults is a 1 to 5 player trick-taking set collection game in which players are going to be gathering these cards over here. They're going to be gathering these cards and trying to add them to their own personal vault, trying to get points for a variety of scoring objectives. That's the core premise. You're going to play this across 9 rounds of play, you're going to be gathering 10 total cards into your vaults, and how you arrange and get those cards and match them with various goals, that's going to determine who wins the game. You see, the basic idea of the game is, like I said already, a little bit of trick-taking, a little bit of set collection, but players are going to go ahead and pick a card from their hand. You're going to be dealt a hand of cards. That hand is going to stay the same. Well, I guess there's opportunities to mix things up. You'll be dealt a hand of cards. We'll talk more about that. You'll be dealt a hand of cards. You're going to be trying to place cards down. You're going to start the game by placing a card down into your vault to start off your vault. So I'm going to go ahead and place this one down. Why this one? Because of this little symbol in the corner here. You see, cards will have a few symbols in the top corner, as you can see over here, and that determines whether it scores points. This card wants to be in the bottom level of your vault. This card wants to be in the middle of your vault. You see, you're going to be arranging a row of 4 columns, 3 rows of cards. So you can have, let me just go ahead and show you here, for example. Let's move this off to the side. So for example, if you're laying down cards, this would be a rough vault approximation. So over here you have 2 columns over here, you could have another 2 over here, and then over here, this might be a final endgame vault. These 4 columns and 3 rows and how you arrange it. You might actually have, 3 over here and 1 over here, but that's the basic idea of what's happening in the game. So we're going to go ahead and be placing those cards out over there, and you're going to start the game off by placing a card down into your personal vault to determine how your vault's going to start. We're going to use this area here so you can see everything. So again, I'm going to take this and I'm going to put this down. All the players are doing the same. These are going to be the goal cards, this is going to be the supply of cards you're going to be gathering, and this is going to be your vault. All players will have one over here, so I'm starting off that way. From there, starting with the player who's first player, you're going to go ahead and select a card, and you're going to play that card to try to win one of the 3 cards on the table, or alternatively to try to win the card that you're playing. That will make sense in a second. You see, when you play a card, you are potentially going to win one of these 3 cards. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and play this card over here to the, let's say I want the middle card over here. I'm going to play this card over here because I'm trying to win the 7. From there, this other player is going to look at their hands, and because they have an opportunity over here, they either could play a 9 to beat the trick if they want to. So a 9 is going to be a higher number than the 6. They will beat the trick. If they place this here, they're the one who's going to get that token over there. But past that, alternatively, your other option is you can intentionally lose. You can play a card over here, intentionally losing the trick. We'll explain more about that in a second. Or alternatively, to go ahead and play a card of the trump suit, which is the current warden card up here. This is the trump suit, so a 3 over here would still be beating the trick. They're going to go ahead and play that over there. They are currently winning this trick. Players can use their markers to track which cards are theirs if they need to. Well, alternatively, at lower player counts, you usually know what's going on. But past that, let's go ahead and grab the last person's hand of cards, and we're going to see what happens now, because this player is going to look at their hand, and they are going to go ahead and they are going to play a card to a different row. They're just going to play a 1 somewhere else. They don't particularly care. They want this card over here. So we're going to go ahead and resolve these tricks now one at a time. The only person who's going for this trick over here is this player. So they're going to grab this card, they're going to add it to their own vault, and they're going to replace that card with their winning card. This card is now available to bid for. Past that, we're going to have this next player over here. Over here, like I said already, because this is the higher number, but this is the trump suit, this player is going to win. So they're going to take this card over here. They're going to put it in their own vault. Their card will become the winning card, but then the last card, the card that was played that didn't win, whenever that happens, you're going to take that card, putting it into your vault accordingly. So again, you're either winning a trick and taking the corresponding card and taking your winning bid and putting it into the next row of cards to be bid on, or alternatively, if you lose the trick, that card will go towards your vault, which you might want to do so intentionally. You might prefer a card in your hand to the ones on the table, which is why if you ever play a card to a trick that is intentionally losing, so again, let's go ahead and play this out over here. If right now we played this card over here, and another player followed it up by playing this card, which as you play it is losing, meaning the card isn't going to lose later as somebody plays. At the moment you play, it's already defined that you're losing. When you do that, you have to take a gear and put it on the winning card. You're basically paying a point. These are going to be worth points at the end of the game, and you are paying a point because of the fact that you are intentionally knowing in advance exactly how things will play out effectively. You have a little more control, but that's going to cost you a point in the game, and that token can potentially be won later once it replaces the card in the row. That's what's going to happen over there. So we're doing that over there. You can play cards that way. You're going through the whole process, and a few more things are happening as you go. First of all, inherently, every single round, you're adding one card to your vault, either the card you won or the card you lost with. And from there, you also have the ability to trigger warden abilities. Right now, when you play this card over here, because it matches the current warden card's ability, not their suit, but rather the ability token over there, you have an option of either rearranging one card in your vault, or alternatively, discarding one card from your hand to the bottom of the remaining cards in the deck, and then drawing up. So you have the option to mix up your hand a little bit, giving you a bit more control over what will be in your hand. So warden ability, once again, you either discard and draw a card, or you rearrange your vault a bit. Past that, you're going to continue playing this until the game ends, at which point you'll score for a variety of criteria. I'm not going to heavily focus on building out a vault over here. I'm just going to go through the scoring criteria and show you how this all works. But effectively, you're scoring for 3 things. Or 4 things, 3 things, 3 things, 4 things. You're scoring for 4 things. I was right the first time. First of all, you're scoring for gears over here. In fact, it's all listed, by the way. These are all listed on the player aids beautifully, so we're going to go over that. But first of all, you're going to score points for these tokens over here. These are worth a point each. It's actually not on this final scoring card, but they are worth a point each. Past that, you're also going to be scoring points based on matching your own suit. So for example, I have this suit over here, so every card in my vault is going to be worth an extra 2 points if it matches that card over there. If the icon matches my faction card, I'll get additional 2 points, which gives me a little bit of incentive to go for these cards. And then lastly, you're going to score, thirdly, you're going to be scoring points based on the tier in the vault. So for example, right now, this card over here is a level 1 tier in a level 1 position, so it's worth 1 point. This is a level 2 card in a level 2 position, so it's worth 2 points. And this is a level 1 card in a level 3 position, so it's worth no points, but had it been a level 3 card, then that would be worth 3 points. So cards are worth 1, 2, or 3 points depending on the level, but you actually have to match the icon appropriately to get those points. And then lastly, you'll score points based on the gold cards. Now in general, the game recommends starting off with only 2 gold cards, but ultimately you can play as many. They mention you can play as many gold cards as you want based on up to the suits of the cards you're playing with, which will depend on player count. So right now we're playing with 4 suits, therefore I have all 4 gold cards in play. That's my preferred way of playing it. And over here we have 4 different gold cards. These are double-sided, by the way, giving you different flexibility in the game, but they're going to give you different ways you score points. So for example, Raid Evasion is going to score every potion card that's adjacent to at least one other potion card in the same tier. If we had this card in the 3rd tier, and you cannot skip tiers, by the way, you have to build up progressively, so let's, for the sake of showing you this, let's have this underneath over here. If you have a potion card next to another potion card, that's going to be worth 3 points per potion card, so these would be worth 6 points because of the fact that they're touching together. Each of these cards is going to give you a scoring goal for how you build out your chambers, and that's what you're trying to take into account as you build out your vault. You're constantly trying to bid on cards that will achieve your goals, or alternatively intentionally lose, so you can have a card in your hand that achieves your goals as you build out your 10 cards in your vault, your starting card plus the 9 rounds of play, and then see who has the most points from those 4 scoring objectives. And that is basically what's going on in Goblin Vaults, which brings us to the review, starting off with the ease of play. Overall, the game is very easy to understand. It's got a very short, accessible rulebook, quick to dive into. It's basically just playing a card to take a card, and then a few other things going on in the game that you have to be mindful of. But overall, game takes, 15 minutes to learn, 5 minutes to teach, and about 15 to 25 minutes to play. Very short and accessible. This is a strong filler game. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, first of all, I like the variety in the goals. The reason I play with all the goals I possibly can every time I play is because I like having more things to juggle in my mind. I like that aspect of, hey, I'm trying to put cards in the right position. I'm trying to get symbols that match my own thing, because people will often, a thing I found in this game when I play it, is a lot of people will focus more on like how important it is to get the matching level 1 card, and they'll disregard the fact that if you have the wrong card, but it was matching your icon, if you have a card in the wrong position matching your icon, on level 1 or 2, it's already equal or better than what's there. Only once you get to level 3 is the right position better, but people try to focus on different things in the game. You have to take into account your goals, you have to take into account your personal faction icon, and you have to take into account card placement, and you have to juggle all of that while you take into account that you're not guaranteed to win what you want, since you're constantly playing a game of bidding with the cards you think will help you, also being mindful that you might get the card you lose. There's a lot to consider here, and there's enough things to mix things up, including the rearranging of your own deck, as well as the rearranging of your tableau of your vaults, as well as the fact that you can draw cards and discard cards, giving you a little bit more agency or control when things don't go your way. So just the general aspect of just having a variety in goals, and again, the fact that this deck comes with a 1 gold card for each of the 6 colors. Each of those are double-sided, giving you a decent amount of variety there. Plus, there's some additional goals as well that aren't necessarily related specifically to the faction colors. Overall, this gives you a fun puzzle of optimization as far as what to solve, and it gives you nuanced play as you think through when you want to win, when you want to lose, and most importantly, when your accommodating and playing as if either one could happen, and you're trying to be mindful around that. And then when you just really need a certain card that's in your hand, just pay the point. You'll hopefully get it back, because hopefully what you're getting, and paying a point is a big deal. When you pay a point so you can score 2, that's you're halving your potential benefit, but you are hedging your bets. And so there's a lot of that nuanced play in this game, a lot of trying to think through what you're going for, what others are going for. Looking at other players' vaults is a big part of the game as well. If I see that you're going for raid evasion, if I see you clearly want that blue card because it's going to the next to your blue card, I can potentially bid accordingly, knowing that I have one less competitor because you and I are going for different cards. And again, that's a big part of the strategy in the game. This is a very quick playing, nuanced game with a lot of things to consider that's very rewarding in the strategic depth relative to the playtime and ease of play and accessibility. As far as what I don't like in the game, I really wished you filled out all 12 cards. Like, I really wished you filled out. Right now in the game, you play 10 cards. You start with 1 in play, you have 9 rounds in play, and all you have is 10 cards into your potential 12 card vault. I wish I had all 12 cards. It's a small little nitpick. The game works just fine with 10. I just want the satisfaction of filling out my entire vault and then trying to take into account those additional 2 cards and how will they score, to the point that I'm almost considering house ruling it. Potentially I have to look into the math and the numbers, because you do need some amount of cards in play. But I kind of wish you were filling out all 12 vaults in the game. And then secondly, the tiebreaker needs to be better. The tiebreaker in the game is kind of who has the most gears, which in most games the gear count has been fairly low for us, and so that's a fairly common. Our very first game, it resulted in a tiebreaker that it ended with the 2 people both having, I think it was 2 gears, maybe 3 gears, I don't remember. And so there's like, hey, you share your victory. The very first game, which by the way is fun. I like sharing the victory, but I like doing it when it's like 2 tiers deep, when it's like, hey, you know what? If you have the most gears, then tiebreaker. If you win, tiebreaker's the most gears, and after that, tiebreaker is whoever has the most level 3 cards in their vault, whatever. I like having like 2 tiers to feel like it's a really rewarding tie, as opposed to a bit more ambient in its resolution. As far as I can see others not liking, first of all, the gameplay is very subtle in terms of what's going on here. This is a game which you're trying to play cards to try to get the right card, try to match to your vault. It's all about those small little point optimizations, which by the way, usually is something I don't love. I usually like larger, bigger plays. This is a very subtle game of how to min-max your way into that extra point, as you take into account the trick-taking nature of what's going on, which brings me to my second point, is this is trick-taking. If you don't like trick-taking games, I don't think it's going to change your mind. Now, it's not pure trick-taking because of the fact that you are not inherently playing a card that's competing with other players. When you play a card, I might be going for different cards than you are in the game, and it might be a completely different situation as far as how that goes. But, meaning as far as we may all go for different cards, but ultimately there is a degree of trick-taking in the game, and so I don't think this is going to change your mind. Before we move to final thoughts, one last thing that I forgot to mention. First of all, first player rotates every round, and secondly, the reason that's important is because the first player, when you have cards in the little prison vaults over here that you're swapping, at the end of the round, the first player has the opportunity to swap out one of the cards for the warden card, which changes the ability as well as the trump suit. So that is going to be shifted up across the course of the game. Which brings me to final thoughts. Final thoughts on Goblin Vaults. I like this one. This is a fast-playing, a quick, accessible, easy-to-teach game that gives you a solid amount of decision-making that's just very rewarding. It's not a long game, it's not the best game, it's just a fast, punchy game that gives you a good amount of decision-making in a short, accessible form that is rewarding to play, that has been fun to dive into multiple times, and to just enjoy the short, quick puzzle it's giving you as you min-max your way towards an optimal score in 25 minutes of play. Overall, this is a 4 out of 5 to me. This is another solid filler game that's good for starting the night off or ending the night, or whenever you just have a short time frame and a bunch of people who want to try to figure out whether they can solve the puzzle for the games, whether they could solve the puzzle of the multiple scoring objectives slightly better than you can. As far as other game recommendations, first of all, Ghosts of Christmas, one of my favorite trick-taking games. This is up there with that. Not as good, but this is up there with that. Very solid game, very solid puzzle trying to think things out. And if you're looking for a different kind of set collection card game that is incredibly enjoyable, Colorado is one that can be hard to find, but if you get your hands on a copy, Colorado to me is a fascinating puzzle of set collection as you try to mess with your opponents and force them to take the cards that aren't right for them. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.